I never thought it would happen like this. You know, you always think things like this happen to other people, the ones you hear about on gossip blogs or see in dramatic TV shows. But it happened to me. It started as something simple, innocent even, a fleeting moment of escape from my mundane reality. But as the days turned into weeks, and then into months, it became something I couldn't control. It was a secret. One that I thought I could hide forever. Until, one night, my phone rang. It was him. I had been waiting for it, in a way. The call, the text, the promise of the excitement that only he could give me. But I wasn't ready for what came next. My heart raced as I saw his name light up my phone screen. There was no turning back now. I glanced at the clock. 2:47 a.m. I had just come from a late night of pretending everything was fine. My husband was in the other room, sound asleep, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. But as I picked up the phone, everything in my world shifted. "Are you alone?" His voice was soft but urgent, the kind of tone that sent a shiver down my spine. "Yes," I whispered, glancing over my shoulder at the closed door. My pulse was thumping in my ears. What was I doing? "You know why I'm calling," he said, his voice almost a growl now. "I need to see you. Right now." Every part of me screamed for caution. The rational side of me, the part that still remembered my vows, tried to push against it. But then, I remembered the way he made me feel. The way he'd made me feel alive in ways I hadn't felt in years. It was like he was the drug I couldn't quit. I can't," I stammered, the words tasting bitter as they left my lips. "Not now, it's too dangerous." But he didn't take no for an answer. He never did. Without waiting for me to respond, he continued, his voice turning darker. "I know you're thinking about your husband. I know you're scared. But the truth is, you can't stop thinking about me." "I know you can't." It hit me harder than I expected, his words stirring something deep inside of me. Was he right? I had spent so many nights, tossing and turning, wondering what the hell I was doing. But the pull to him was undeniable. The thought of being with him, being seen by him, was all-consuming. And now I could feel myself slipping further into this tangled web of lies and passion. "You don't understand," I whispered, my voice faltering. "This is too dangerous. If anyone finds out, they won't." His words were sharp, cutting through my hesitation like a knife. "They won't ever know. Not if you come now. You and me. We'll have our time. Just us. The world can wait." And with that, everything else faded. The house, the life I had built, the consequences of my actions. In that moment, all that mattered was the fire he ignited in me every time we were together. The hunger, the secret, the thrill of it all. I knew I had to make a decision, a split-second choice between what I had and what I wanted. But what if what I wanted wasn't just sex? What if it was something more? I hung up the phone and threw on a coat. My hands were shaking as I crept out of the house, my heart beating so loudly in my chest I was sure it would give me away. This wasn't just a secret anymore, it was a dangerous game. When I arrived at his apartment, the air between us crackled with anticipation. We barely spoke as he pulled me inside, his hands already all over me, urgent and demanding. I was lost in the chaos of my desires, lost in the feeling of being wanted, of being alive in a way I hadn't been in years. But even in the midst of the passion, a part of me wondered, what happens when the game stops being fun? We didn't talk about it. That always hung in the background. The reason we were here. The lies I was living, but with every touch, every whispered word, I was reminded that I couldn't stop. The night continued in a haze of heat and regret, each moment a blur of indulgence and uncertainty. I told myself I'd feel better, that I'd go back home and forget about it. But something deep inside told me that this night, this call, was the point of no return. When I finally returned home, the silence in the house was deafening. My husband was still asleep, oblivious to the storm that was brewing in my soul. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, staring at him for what felt like an eternity. He was everything I had once wanted, everything I thought I needed. And yet, in that moment, I felt empty. What was I doing? I had crossed a line I never thought I would cross. But the truth was, I didn't feel guilty, not at first. The guilt came later, after the high of the night had worn off and I was left with nothing but the aftermath, the thoughts, the questions. What happens when you start living two lives? When you're no longer sure who you really are? Had I ruined everything? The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about the call, about him, about the way he made me feel. I went about my day like everything was normal, but inside I was falling apart. The guilt was slowly creeping in, poisoning my thoughts. I found myself checking my phone every 5 minutes. Would he call again? What would happen if he did? What would I do? Every time I thought about him, my heart raced, and yet, I wasn't sure if it was excitement or fear. By mid-afternoon, my phone rang again. It was him. My heart stopped. I almost didn't answer it. But I did, and just like the night before, his voice sent a shockwave through my body. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said, his tone low, dark, seductive. "Last night wasn't enough. I need more of you. I need you now." I could hear the urgency in his voice, the need. And for a moment I wanted to give in. But then I remembered the life I had, the family, the love, the promises I had made. "I can't keep doing this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't keep lying." He didn't hesitate. "Then leave him. Leave it all behind. We can have everything we've ever wanted. No more games. No more lies. Just us." I felt my chest tighten at his words. Could I really leave everything behind? Was he worth it? Was this worth the mess I was creating? "I don't know what I want anymore," I admitted, my voice cracking. "I don't know if I can have both." "You don't have to," he replied. "You just have to choose. You're already halfway there." And I realized then, with a sickening certainty, that he was right. I had already made my choice. I was already too deep into this to turn back. That night, my world would change forever.